In the aftermath of Tian Chen's death, there are no monsters, but the demons we all face after the death of a loved one. This episode was harder to watch than the frightful monsters. The realness of the human tragedy can be harder to stomach than Fatima's rotting vegetables. Hello and welcome back to APNG's coverage of From Season 3, Episode 2, When We Go. I'm your host, Jack, and joining us today is our wonderful third chair, sometimes part-time co-host, my lovely wife, the Lady Diana.
Oh, thank you for that lovely opening. I've made some cabbage soup for you, as we have lots of that. Thanks for having me. It's so fun. I know Michelle is bummed she can't be a part of this, but we've put her to work in the kitchen. She is currently working on a Fromville cookbook, which includes such delicious recipes as a cabbage soup,
Stuffed cabbage filled with
cabbage slaw, cabbage burgers, of course,
cabbage patties, cabbage burgers,
and
cabbage
of course,
sides.
the Fromville cookbook would not be complete without a rotting stew, complete with a few of Fatima's teeth. So, if you're hungry, get ready.
Thank you, Diana, for picking up the mood after that opening line. The opening lines for me. Now, look, we started watching this show a couple of years ago, long before we were podcasting about it.
Oh yeah,
and it was fun. Okay, like it was a fun show, but let's all be honest. Okay, like it was a little funny. Some of it was, not up to the par that it's reached now. What I do want to say is every single actor in the cast has improved from season to season. Diana, you want to say something?
I couldn't watch the first season with a straight face without just like bursting into laughter most of the time. The acting, aside from, of course, Harold Perrineau, who is a fantastic actor always and forever. I love you.
Our New York brethren.
Yeah, exactly. We love him from the days of New York theater. And you didn't mention in the last episode Mercutio from the best version of Romeo and Juliet ever with Leo and Claire.
Harold, we love you. We've been watching you for a quarter of a century.
So always acting up to snuff with Harold Perrineau and not trying to throw shade at the other actors, but just the whole production. It seemed like a campy, goofy kind of show that took itself a little too seriously. But I gotta say, like towards the end of last season and now definitely into this season, it's taking itself seriously, but it is serious and it's well done. Like the production value feels more on top of things. The acting, like these actors have found their characters and they really are believable in it. Even young Ethan, like I'm impressed with them all. And but this episode was hard to watch. It was probably one of the most upsetting, and there were literally no monsters in the entire
But would you say it was more upsetting than the first episode?
Well, the end of the first episode was what led to this upsetting episode. Like the end of the first episode was god awful.
I mean, it's really like it's like a two-parter.
Yeah. And like this is the aftermath. And I remember when they started the series, they did this, I think, like alternating. They'd have an episode like basically all at night and then an episode all in the daytime. And this kind of did follow
the same thing. I mean, that's you got to keep the monsters at bay, right? Because we have to see the town and the aftermath unfold properly.
Yeah, so it was pretty depressing. It's like all of our lovely moms who would cook for us died in this episode. Like, it was upsetting.
I want to give a real shout out to Ricky Hay, or he, correct me, listeners, on the pronunciation, the actor who plays Kenny. Look, he's a solid actor, but in my humble opinion, he's stepped up into a different stratosphere. The reaction to finding out about his mother's death was some of the best acting that has been on the show. It's also, that can be a really like contrived type of reaction. And he did it so realistic. I know, it hit both of us in a certain way, made me cry. I mean, just to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no. And anyone who's lost somebody close to them, a parent or otherwise, like it felt pretty damn authentic. Like you definitely could feel his pain and, empathize and commiserate with him. I mean, it was a very powerful performance. And I think felt very real for a show where we have monsters in a nightmare world. Like it's not a real world, but they're creating like a really real scenario for us.
Also, I just want to say this episode separated the show for me, and it was already a step above what I'm about to mention, but we were in sort of like a Wayward Pines, under the dome type of territory, and with some of, thank you, maybe even extant.
Oh, wow.
We
You're
go
really
back
going
about
into the
10, 12
recesses.
years. But I feel like it really kind of separated itself from the schlock, essentially, with this season. I mean, these first two episodes were real hard hitting. I hated the way last week ended
Mm.
because I'm not a big fan of ending on a scene like that with this kind of show. But at the same time, if you don't end there, how do you pick up here in
Yeah,
this
no, that
episode?
was jaw dropping.
And we are going to do, we're playing with our format a little bit here as we're new into the scripted programming game. We've been doing reality recaps for quite a while, but we wanted to dive. As I said last week, if you heard last week, thank you so much for joining us again. But we're into the thematic relationship discussion, which is how we kind of employ in the reality recap. We don't go beat for beat in the reality recap. We're playing with the format here because I think that this show kind of needs a beat for beat because you're going to miss something. I mean, if we don't cover everything that happens, where are we standing? There's so much lore and theory crafting. You gotta before you get neck deep, you gotta be comfortable knee deep.
Well, I think that we'll probably weave some theories and noticings throughout the recap, but at the end, if we haven't touched on some, there are some interesting theories and lore. And I know we don't have our wise sage autistic Michelle here, who really knows how to do research, and but we're gonna do our very best to share some of our own theories and some theories we've heard and seen, and of course we like to hear from you and your theories. I mean, I love reading when people have theories and we'll watch and listen. So please feel free to send an email. Jack, where do they send?
Yes, APNG podcast at gmail.com. Also on Instagram, we can get messages there. We're everywhere. Just search for APNG, All Pleasure, No Guilt. That's
Yeah.
our main title.
Come at us. Let us know how much you're enjoying the show.
We do want to hear from you because this is a show about community and we're about building community. And as the official from, I think this is an official hashtag, they call the fans Frumily.
Frumily. We're all Frumily from Frumville.
That's right.
Frumtastic. Okay. Frumming up
And
now.
with that being said, Michelle will be back next week. She will be getting in deep on whatever Diana and I pull out of the theory canon that we craft here. But getting into the episode recap. So, of course, we end last week. Horrible scenes there. We see the monsters. That one cowboy monster is a real creepy fuck. I don't even know. He's got like a rubber face. I don't know. The casting of the monsters when they're not in monster form, really strong because they're very off-putting individuals.
Mm.
So we have last week we see they're making Boyd watch as they torture Tien Chen. We're going to pick up in the barn as Jade enters the barn. Boyd's crying, but he's not crying yet. Sorry. When Jade enters, he's repeating a phrase over and over again, which is Cantonese. We don't know that necessarily unless you have the subtitles on like
Yeah,
we
if you
did.
watch everything with subtitles because you have terrible hearing like I do, or your audio ADHD is acting up, and so the only way you can focus is if you're reading
Who are you talking
subtitles,
about?
then you might notice that it's Cantonese he's speaking.
So we have Jade enters, David Allray, another terrific performance. I love this character, another guy who's just really grown by leaps and bounds on this show. But so we have Jade freeing Boyd, who then rushes over to Tien Chen's battered body and holding her. He's just repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Diana, anything to add there? I mean, this is a quick.
Props to the makeup crew.
Yeah, it was very solid makeup.
It was well done. No, we're going to see more about the PTSD that Boyd is clearly suffering, and the guilt and shame, all the stuff that comes from, being there to have witnessed this awful death, which also brings up, you remember, I don't remember her name, but the girl who had the thing stuck in her head in the tree and had to be
I don't know if
forced.
we knew her
I
name,
don't know,
but yeah, you're
whatever.
talking about the girl who they shot her in the head with like an arrow so she couldn't
So she was
move
like stuck to the tree and they made her watch as
as
they
they
killed her
killed.
boyfriend. So like
Yes.
there's clearly some of it's like a sadistic, interesting, like wanting to have them watch, but I also wonder like what it's doing in terms of like they're trying to drudge up feelings, right? Because of the suffering that whatever this evil being that's running the town, controlling this whole nightmare experiment is definitely feeding off of. And we'll talk more about that, I think. But
Because of the somewhat lost connection with Perino here, is this like, do you get the idea that this is like when you say evil entity, is it like a man in black smoke monster thing, or is it more of like a demon type of vibe to
I
you?
mean, yeah, there are some like I think biblical references. I'm not, I don't read the Bible that often, but there are definitely some things with that and patterns and numbers. So, I mean, I think it's an entity. I don't think it's like a figure or person, but yeah, kind of a demonic feeling. I mean, how you might think of it. Um, I'm not sure exactly, but obviously there's some huge entity that is kind of like whether it's
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
human type form or demonic form,
it's going to
it's
be in some other form,
like
but
the universe, like a
it's a,
mother nature, the opposite of that.
I'd call it. Let's stick with dark entity. I
Okay,
think that
I
works,
like
but
it.
you play with that as you will. As we continue, we get back to the weird kind of old cabins where Jim wakes Kenny up to show him he's found. Can you believe it? Because you wouldn't know it from later in the episode, really. But Jim has found bountiful portions of fresh vegetables,
Cabbage, lots and
cabbage.
lots of cabbage, green cabbage, purple cabbage, yellow cabbage, all the
What
cabbage
did
you can
they?
eat.
What did they come back with? Was it just like root
Yeah,
vegetables,
I mean,
essentially?
whatever. But so there was water, there's a lake, and there's
Yes.
fresh food. So clearly, I guess, even though Jim probably should have listened to his wife and actually stuck around and watched his kids
Oh, we'll
like
get to
a
Julie's
good
response
dad.
on that.
Yeah, really. But there was something that came out of this. Is this the lake that Elgin has dreamed about?
I think so, but they have hung out at a lake before.
Okay.
They've gone swimming at some lake, but I don't know. Look, with the geography of From, like this could be the opposite end of the lake that like nobody could see before.
Yeah, I want a map because I feel like nothing actually is in a
Do you
physical
have an MC
location.
Escher map that you'd
Yeah,
like to watch?
yeah,
Because
like it
I'm
goes upstairs that just go back around, like nothing makes any sense.
well, that's.
Um,
I mean, I think about it though. You just kind of put it into perspective. If this is being controlled by anyone or an entity or anything, is it not designed to drive you completely mad?
oh yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
we see this,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So, after the vegetable scene, we get to Tabitha. We finally see Tabitha awaking in Victor's father's house. He has a gun on her. He's probing her with questions. She gives him straight
Yeah, did you
answers.
think she was going to be honest or she was going to make up some BS story? At first, I couldn't tell.
I didn't think she was going to go bullshit because the way she's been experiencing everything, I don't even know that she would be able to pull the bullshit because the truth is so unbelievable. I don't even know what else she would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, she's honest. And then, of course, Victor's dad, Henry, I think is his name, is like, has his gun and is like, I'm calling the cops on you. I already did call the cops on you. Like,
Do
I'm
you
not
think
listening
this
to
is a
this BS.
fair? Is this a fair response in your opinion from Henry
I
or
mean, I
Victor's dad?
guess it's an intruder who's like maybe trying to capitalize on his pain and suffering, somehow has found something out, has his kid's lunchbox from like 40 years
I
ago.
think what's
So,
interesting is it's almost like a commentary. We're in From, which is cut off from everything, and as soon as you get out into the quote real world, everything you have to question everything, and you have to question. We know, like we've seen stuff in other shows in real life where people do make up stuff to like just like harass somebody who's in deep mourning or something like that. So I think his reaction is fair. I mean,
I still like
yeah.
don't understand the age of Victor and his dad. They do not look far
No,
apart
they don't.
enough in
But
age.
if you look at it, let's just peg Victor around 50. And I think his dad said he was like 25 or so when she got pregnant with him,
Okay.
give or take. Like, I don't know. I don't know how old the actor playing his father is. But do you think this is maybe playing with time
Intentional,
a little bit?
it's hard to tell. I'm not sure. I hope it's intentional, but I mean, are they trying to make Victor like Victor? I think the actor's dyeing his hair, so I can't quite tell.
Yeah,
Um,
no, no, it's an interesting thing there. I mean, look, it boils down to the lunchbox. Tabitha's holding Victor's lunchbox, and his father has not seen this lunchbox since the last time he saw Victor. I mean, that has to be that's going to stick with you a little bit. It also looks, well, here I don't want to jump ahead here. Um, so she tells him that Victor's grown up and living in the town that she's describing. She obviously we've all seen the episode. We know that she's giving the full rundown of the town. Um, so he doesn't believe her, threatens to call the cops. She asks him not to, and you know,
and then we jump back to the town for a bit. Hearing like with Jade and Boyd kind of taking poor Tian Chen's body, kind of taking it around and
well, they're bringing it in a wheelbarrow. They're
that's
bringing it to
right.
the
And
church.
Jade asks Boyd why he wasn't killed. And of course, Boyd's like, they wanted me to watch. Like,
Now, what I don't know, and I don't know that this is clear yet, Diana, do you think that they didn't kill Boyd because he might be carrying some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A
like,
resistance,
yeah.
a
Like, yeah, he can't
yeah,
be
from the
killed
from the
from the
worm blood.
worms. Yeah, it could be that. Like, there's something where but also you guys were talking about last time, I think, like the man in black thing. And is
Hmm.
he yeah, kind of like the antithesis. And so they can't kill him or they just don't want to yet because they have more use for him to not kill him. But we see Boyd like really struggling with this, with the fact that he had to watch this and obviously feels responsible, even though there's nothing he could have done. Like they trapped him, he was tied up, like he couldn't have done anything. But
I think that what nobody can really understand is what we saw at the end of the first episode, and only Boyd was there, which is he locked eyes with her and kept talking to her through the whole thing, because that's like the heart and soul that Boyd has, because he really wanted to be there for her however he could, but to be trapped like that is just so it is just such an amalgamation of the entire show to
like
be.
your hands
Yeah.
are literally tied. There's
Yes.
nothing you can do. And the
Yes.
frustration and pain of dealing with that. And he kind of later on in the episode, when we get to it, we'll talk about, but when he's talking to Kenny and kind of trying to help him through that and telling him that his mom was so strong and like
Yes.
they were looking at each other, like they had this moment together that was really special, knowing that this was the end for her.
Now, this leads to a really kind of rough thing that I know we kind of wanted to talk about, which is towards the end of this scene, as Boyd's heading back over to his space, Donna comes running down
Woo!
from Colony
Donna
House,
comes in hot.
real hot. And I just wanted to get your take here. I mean, I'll give my take first here, but super fucking hard and harsh at Boyd. He had no ability to do anything. She's screaming at him about saving the animals and putting everyone at risk and all of this, but like this is a game. Is Donna just caught in it because she quickly,
Yeah,
relents,
she
and
pivots.
was it just the shock and the anger at what's going on?
Yes, and I think like Lost, where they man of science, man of God, or
Oh,
right, like
yeah.
I think Donna and Boyd are both the leaders, and they lead in very different ways. And I think there's always like a little bit of tension between the different ways that they lead. And Donna, Boyd is focused on how to get out, how to save the town, how to move forward, how to get out of this, living in the town where they're in their
Well,
separate
you're saying
houses.
Donna's been more
Whereas
focused on
Donna
making Colony House a fun place to live
No,
or a
but
safe place to
Donna's
live.
more focused on the people, the relationships, and that's what's important. But at the same time, like she was the one who was talking about how there's no food, and she kind of panics a little too hard. Like,
Yeah.
girl needs to take a Xanax, take it down a notch. Like, we need to relax a little
I
bit.
have noticed, if you notice, they had a bunch of pot there like the first couple season. What
Yeah,
happened to all
what
that pot?
did that rot too? That sucks. Like, did they make any hash oil or anything out of that? Because Colony House used to be chill, and
Maybe
now I
that's
guess
what's wrong with
I guess
Fatima.
it's like winter is coming.
Maybe Fatima's just been eating rotten weed.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But yeah, Donna does pivot. Like you can see, okay, she realizes like, okay, maybe I didn't get the full story. I wasn't there, didn't have a choice. So I think they were just showing like a different perspective of if that happens, like anyone wants to blame anything. Like you're so angry and what do you know, it all comes back to these monsters, but you can't really do anything with them at this point. So
Yeah,
you blame the other humans, right? And that's what we do in our life when there's no one that we can deal with or blame anything on. Like you start to
it
blame
just
each other.
is.
Exactly.
And this is, you know, and we'll get to this, but this is, you know, this is what Boyd and Donna are talking about. Donna's talking about that the place is rigged, it's a game. Boyd's talking about that the place is like intentionally driving everyone crazy. We're going to see Julie's starting to feel the effects of that as well. We do get a scene here with Julie comforting Ethan in their house, well, in Tien Chen's house.
You mean
Um,
his mother, Julie, who's been like surrogate mom who now has to take over because the parents are just again
Well,
absent?
and then here is sort of like another letdown for the kids, and it's not his fault. And we love you, Victor. Is our subtitle of the show is Victor's Lunchbox. Um, this is a tough spot for Victor. You know, Victor has you know, his mentality is a little younger.
Well,
He's
he
been stuck there
Victor
forever.
didn't grow up around people.
No,
He
he's
everyone
self.
died in the
He's
town
so this is
when he
Victor's
was a
react.
kid.
I feel like Victor's receding into the child Victor when he's confronted with another death of someone that he loves. And he snaps at this moment and he yells at Ethan, you know, Ethan, people die. That's what happens here. And says he's got to go. And he storms out. And Julie's just there to kind of try to comfort Ethan. Ethan is, he's an interesting kid now.
This isn't your stupid Chromonocle story, Ethan. This is real here. People really die.
That was the kind of underscore there. It was like, this isn't your dumb book, kid.
This isn't a fairy tale. Get real, kid. So we go back in where is it, Camden,
Camden,
with
Maine. Yes.
Victor's dad. And
Yes.
so again we have you know, she's trying to prove to Victor's dad that uh
But he basically, so she goes through the whole thing, and he's basically like, so you're the one
yeah,
person
cool,
who
okay,
ever got
crazy.
to leave? Like, why?
All right, I shouldn't have called the cops. I should have called like the nut house facility to come and get you because this is crazy. But then
Did you escape from a mental hospital across the lake?
dun dun dun, she says something that he connects with.
Yes, she's talking about that. She's telling him everything about the town, and just one of her quick marks is, you know, I heard children saying they needed to be saved from the tower.
And lo and behold, he makes a connection because we know what's going to happen is something about his wife.
Yes, and then with that, we get a knock on the door. He has called the cops, but he, of course, walks over, tells the cops he made a mistake, and then tells Tabitha, kind of in a funny way. He's just like, I never even loaded this gun before. I bought it 40 years ago. Can I make you something to eat?
And back at Colony House,
Yes.
Fatima is pulling out her teeth.
Yo, okay,
That
okay.
was so nasty. I'm like, dude, okay, please don't. I
First of
know.
all, I know that we talked about this a lot last week. Is there one toilet in Colony House?
Yes, yet where are the outhouses? Like we said, it's been summer for like 40 years.
There's no trenches.
They
There's nothing.
right, like go find another place to
They
go. But
trust
she's vomiting again,
the
and this time,
magic plumbing.
did you notice that she was throwing up? It was like green and putrid. Like it did not look like
I
healthy.
think they're trying to quickly let
Yeah,
us know she
something
is
in there
not
ain't right.
well.
Like that's not normal pregnancy morning sickness. And like, yes, I know in pregnancy your teeth can, you know, like you get
Loosen.
gingivitis, your
Yeah.
teeth can loosen. Like really,
But
the
as
fun
far as I
parts
know,
of being a woman.
please get at me if this has happened to you. As far as I know, your teeth don't come out painlessly with roots
Yeah, let's just
attached.
like pop out an entire molar. Like, why not?
Now, I feel like, do you think that this is getting into her mental state at all? Because, like, she's unwell and she kind of comes to the door where Ellis is kind of pleading with her to maybe go see Christy. And she doesn't want to, but then kind of comes out and is like, oh, yeah, maybe that is a good idea. And
Yeah.
just kind of is like holding her tooth.
No, she looks corpse like and she looks out of it, like less concerned than you might be, but it's usually, I find, like if you're sick, you don't feel that concerned. It's the people around you who are more concerned because you're like, I feel too sick to care about anything, even how sick I am.
Right. And when you're that sick.
Yeah.
And it does. And look, if let's say you're, and we know she's malnourished, so that is going to
Well,
play
we
into
find
her
that out
psyche.
when she
I'm
goes
saying we're going to
to
find out she's malnourished. So,
Marielle, and begrudgingly they let her, examine Fatima because, who wants to let Marielle do anything with her drug history? And
they got to like move off of that
honestly,
a little
move
bit.
on, people.
I mean, granted, I understand that we have no idea how many days anything has been, but like she survived. She's
You're living
okay.
in a
She's not on
freaking nightmare
drugs.
town that doesn't really exist. Like, if somebody's going to do some drugs, like, you can back up off them a little bit.
So, Ellis keeps kind of doing the like, we should wait for Christy. We should wait.
Ellis.
Can we wait for Christy? Can we wait
Does
for
anyone
Christy?
else just like look at Ellis and laugh and be like, where did this guy come from?
Well,
Like, hipster in the house.
it's really funny because I like him. He seems like a nice guy, right? But like,
Sure.
but
Sure.
but I do think it's funny, like the kerchiefs and the outfits. He's just like, I don't know, like where's he getting time to like sort of set up his like outfits for the week? Is he?
He's got the cool like sweater, grandpa sweater going on, and he's probably got the like cuffed short pants. And yeah, I don't. Ellis is the one who stashed all the pot. He's definitely got all the good
Ellis
drugs.
smoked all the weed. That's
Yeah,
what's going
for
on
sure.
with
Yeah,
him.
it didn't rot. It's just Ellis has it. He's hiding it.
I could see a spin-off where it's just like Ellis's dispensary in Fromville.
But he didn't smoke enough because he's just freaking out about the pregnancy. And do you think that Marielle was just placating them, or she's like, "You're going to be fine. You're just super malnourished, and a giant tooth just fell out of your mouth."
Well,
And
she
not a big
specifically
deal.
says, I, as far as I can tell, everything's okay, but she's not really checking anything.
Yeah.
And also, I don't believe Fatima would be far enough along for her to pick up anything on a stethoscope.
No, there's honestly nothing she can do if they don't have
I mean,
a sonogram.
do you
like
think this is just,
ultrasound.
do you think this is just Marielle being like, look, I don't see anything
Yeah.
bad happening. So,
Yeah, like this is all normal given the circumstances. I'm going to
okay,
give
wait,
you
hold
this.
on a second. Hold on a second. We've already covered that entire tooth with roots is not normal. So is she bad at her job, or is she just sort of like glossing over this?
I mean, I think she's talking about like how if you're that malnourished, I think your teeth can fall out. I don't know. And how long they've been in this town, and
Oh, that's true. Maybe Marielle is thinking like, I don't know how the physics work here exactly.
yeah, I mean, give her a break,
So we're going to get a little heavier next because we have Boyd and Christy standing by the pool outside with the flipped over truck that's been in there. And she's giving him the "it's not your fault" speech and everything. And Christy says she's helping him the way he helped her because she felt responsible for when Kenny's father was killed and other things as well. This is, I think this is a good scene because just to have, I like that somebody's talking to Boyd and letting him know, like we have Donna who could have been there, but she's dealing with her own shit and came at him angry. To have someone kind of come at him, matching him as like, hey man, I want to be here the way you were here for me. That meant a lot.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing at
I'm
that?
just you're talking about this like heavy, serious scene,
Yeah.
and all I can think about is Christy's haircut. Like that haircut makes me so angry. Like, what is that haircut? I don't care if you like now or if you're a lesbian, like you can have like I live on the east side of Los Angeles. Like every 20 some 30 some girl has this stupid fucking haircut now.
It's not a great look. Now, do you think that now when they went to From, that haircut was not in style yet? Do you think that this was like maybe through new magazines, through the new people that came by?
No,
maybe
didn't she like go crazy?
Maybe in the bus. Maybe there was
They're
some
like, ooh, the hot new mullets coming back. Like, bring back the 80s in Fromville. Can we do like a whole ad about this? Can we play
Christy
a game?
looks like she wandered off the set of Yellow Jackets into this show.
Not as disturbing as Christy's haircut is. Fatima's tooth falling out, not as disturbing as Christy's haircut.
Fatima shoveling, which we'll get to, shoveling raw garbage root vegetables in her face.
Not as disturbing as Christy's haircut.
If you were out at night and you like had to walk out, like, and you're just trying to go from house to house, so it's quick and the monsters can't run, and you see Christy, and like I don't know, the milkman or like that girl who was hitting on the guy who killed
Yeah, I'm
everyone in
going
Colony
towards the
House.
monsters. I'm like, get me the hell away from Christie's haircut. Like the
Would you be
monsters
more
ripping
afraid?
the throat
Yeah,
out
would you
of.
be more afraid that Christy would pass along her haircut to you than the
Oh
monsters
my
killing you?
god, like no, don't get your hipster haircut all over me. No, no, don't do it. I don't want a mullet, please. Like everyone at the coffee shop around the corner from our house has that hair. You can watch like six girls walk in and out of that coffee shop and they getting their like $8 lattes.
Folks, can you tell that Diana is trying to sidestep the emotional portion of
It's
this
really
show?
dark. This episode was really like just very emotionally draining, and I needed Christie's haircut to help me out, even though that was the most emotionally draining portion of the
Well,
whole
I
episode.
do. I will say my one criticism of this episode, while I think it was a great episode, can we please have like a little bit more humor sprinkled in there? Because, even in like the bloodiest of horror movies, there's like some character with a little comic relief. There's
Yeah.
very little comic
Well,
relief
in
here.
this episode, this is not a movie. This isn't like a one-off kind
No,
of
but you
script.
could, they did in the first couple of
They
seasons
did, but
switch it around a little bit.
I mean, I honestly think they made it so like this episode was so important emotionally and for connecting the characters, and when you're talking about the relationships and how we're thinking about the relationships between these characters, and these are real people who are stuck in this fake alternate situation, but they're still real and their emotions are still real. It would have cheapened the episode if they had had like comedic moment, like it just would have taken
So
away.
you think this was really like, hey, we want this to be hard hitting.
Yeah.
So like let's have it be like that. Like it's
Exactly. Like really take us into this time, into this place. I mean, the
so
only
you think this is maybe my discomfort with some of this that's like could have used some comic relief, but you're right, it would have been like a cheesy like action movie essentially if you do that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you could say Jim is a little bit of comedy because I don't,
Is being a schmuck asshole a
yeah,
comedy?
like he makes me laugh because I'm
Comedic.
just like, what's the matter? Like they come back. Oh God. Well, so the next scene is what Kenny and Jim come back from their odyssey, super pumped, super excited. They've found food. Like this should be a really positive moment.
This is such a rough moment
Oof.
because we see everybody. I mean, all the key players are standing outside with one notable absence, which of course is Tien Chen. And to Jim's credit, at least, his first question is, "Are my kids okay?"
I did appreciate that because I was like, if he doesn't ask about his children looking at all these like
Oh,
morose faces,
he would have been canceled essentially at
yeah,
that point.
I mean, he's so close already with his hair, and that apparently I have a thing with the hair on this show because
You're not,
him
yeah.
too with his like greasy, partially slicked back, like product filled experience. I don't know what's going on there.
Everyone else looks better than Jim right now. I
But
mean,
Jim's like one of the most attractive people. Like
Jim's
the
a handsome
actor is a
guy.
good looking dude. Oh, for those of you that don't know, he was on in the movie Center Stage, the one about the ballerinas and the
Was he a
dancers
dancer in
in
that
New York.
movie?
No, he was a waiter who dated like the main one of the main dancers, the one who was the best dancer, but who
Are
didn't
you
really
saying
have a
that
passion for
Are you
dancing.
saying that secretly Jim's a fuckboy?
Oh yeah, certainly. Certainly. Um
So anyway, this is where
anyway,
Diana,
it's
let's bring it down for a
yeah.
second because this is a big scene here. So
Oof.
we get Kenny kind of like looking around. He's excited and he's kind of confused for a moment, like, why isn't everyone else excited about this food? And then we get Boyd kind of trying to talk to him. And then this is where Kenny, I mean, the acting is just he knocks it out of the park here.
Yeah.
The reaction of the yelling at the no, no,
No,
no, no, not
no,
yet.
no.
Stop, stop, stop. Like all of that because he's trying to hold on to that moment. He knows his mom's dead. He
Yeah.
already knows it.
He's
He's a
he's
smart
coming to
guy.
terms with it.
He's
He's
coming to terms with it, but in his own time. And I really like that moment when you hear when he says stop, stop, and Boyd is like, "All right, man, all right."
like he stops because it's like I know you are processing the fact that this is actually true and that now you're an orphan. Both of his parents have died in this town.
I guess he's the first person who we've seen lose everyone. Is there any?
I mean, a lot of people don't come there with a whole
apart from
family.
people who came with one other person, like I think Donna was with one other person who got
Yeah.
killed. I don't know that someone has lost their whole family here in that way. I
No.
mean, I guess, well, let me say though, Victor did obviously lose his whole family. We know his father's alive. I don't think Victor knows his father's alive necessarily.
Yeah. No. And yeah, it's just really painful to watch him realize what's happening. Like everyone knows what's going on and watching him, like that moment, like I feel like everything around him probably just stopped and he was just in like a few like what is happening. And
Yes.
thankfully Christy kind of follows him into like he goes into the diner looking for his mother and it's just so painful to
It's
watch him
oof.
like go in there like not wanting to
And you
believe
know the vibe in his head when he sits at the counter is like, everything's okay. Like
like
my
my
mom's
mom's
in the
gonna come
kitchen.
out
Like
cook
it's
me
fine.
something.
And
Oh
then he has to, and then, so Christy comes in. They obviously have a very close friendship and love each other. And she's there for him. She sits back while he's sitting there. And, then of course, because this fucking town can't let you mourn or grieve for like 3 seconds, we get celebration.
oh my god, it really this
Oh,
town just like trolls these people, like it is really like just really messing with them, really fucking with
it's
them.
demonic
It
because this is
is
like, think about this is
a demonic
a
troll.
demonic troll. It's like an evil troll that looks like an evil Danny DeVito, like underneath, just like,
Danny
oh,
DeVito and the
how
Penguin.
can I fuck with him now? Like that's like what's going to happen. And then we see, look, I'm curious, are they trying to drive people to destroy things also? Because obviously, what's Kenny going to do but bash that jukebox in?
Yeah, well, but even more than destroying, I think remember they've talked in the past and previous episodes and seasons about how the town feeds on their suffering. And
Yes.
so just like constantly reminding them of their suffering and then mocking it makes their emotions even stronger. And if it's not just suffering they're looking for, but anger and all of those negative feelings that it's feeding off of, then by mocking you with like an obnoxious song and getting you to kind of fight
Yes.
that, it's also like getting your resistance down and you're not paying attention because you're just so upset and so mad that you
Yes.
might do something
You'll
stupid
make a
like
you'll make a
go
silly
into
mistake.
the cave with a bunch of
Grain
alcohol.
alcohol.
Right.
Now we did just go over something in that scene. We skipped something that I wanted to get your take on, which is Kenny quoting Tien Chen to Christy when he says that she always used to say to him, "No matter how bad it gets, we'll never have this day again." How does that sit with you? How do you take that in?
Okay, as somebody who always like responds to something like that with something
Go fuck
negative,
yourself.
yeah, go fuck yourself. Thank you. Yeah, fuck you very much.
But
No,
in this case, tell me what Tien
no, I
Chen
mean,
meant.
God, and it just makes him burst into tears. And I think that if you think of something very specific about a loved one who's passed, that they said that it just like brings all of the emotions flooding back in. Um, I think it kind of is reminding him that, the worst of it, like this awfulness that he's experiencing right now, will only happen now. Like he will not have this awfulness again, even though you'll have the memories, I think, of like and all of that, but like the experience you're having. And then also, I don't know when he says this, but later he says like he doesn't want to see her the way she is because he saw his father all shredded up by
Yes.
the monsters and like that's his image of him now. And I think it is kind of like, well, like then I want my lasting image, my lasting memory, the final to be you in your best, you in the kitchen, behind the counter, putting on clothes, finding like you just being you as opposed to you as the victim here.
Yes. I think you're really nail on right there because you know, I think what she meant by everything was like, no matter how bad this is, no matter how much death is around us, we don't get this time back, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. I
Hmm.
think that's sort of like the notion there. And I think it's even in the bad times, love your loved ones, hold on to your loved ones. And with that, as we have in this show, keep hope alive,
Right. Which I want to
which we're going to
talk.
get to that
Yeah,
quote
I
coming
definitely want
up.
to talk about hope later on because while we think that the town, the monster, the demon, troll, whatever it is feeding off of the suffering, it's also the hope is leading to suffering, and so therefore in
Yes.
a circuitous way it's also feeding on hope.
It
And
is a vicious
ooh,
circle.
yeah, it can go pretty deep.
We're going to get into a happier moment here as Jim returns
Oh,
home
fucking
finally
Jim.
from his ill advised, let me leave my kids whose mom just disappeared alone in
Yeah,
the scary Fromville town.
Jim is not winning Father of the Year awards in Fromville, unfortunately. Julie hates him, blames him, reminds him that she had to be the adult when
Well, she says she had to be the adult for Ethan when the parents were arguing, and then specifically she really had to step up when we found out that awful tragedy that happened with their other child Thomas, who died tragically falling off the changing table, which we'll obviously get to more of that later. um,
ugh, I don't
but
want
this
to.
is like such a I don't know, this is again, I'm talking about the acting improving, and
Yeah,
Julie,
Julie, well
whew,
done, because she's improved a good deal, I gotta
she's
say.
good now. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
she's.
Michelle hates that character more than anyone, I
I think it's
think.
because Michelle relates to that character a little
Oh,
bit.
ooh.
Listeners, do tell Michelle that I said that. But no, I think that this is like really solid because she comes at him. She's her own person. She has agency. She does not want to be pushed past her limit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like what teenage daughter wouldn't act like this if their parent left and left them kind of responsible for the
Again.
younger sibling for another time?
And she's also been wondering, like, okay, I guess both my parents are gone and
And I
dead
mean,
now.
they also did end up in this town because the parents wanted like one last
Hurrah.
garbage trip with as a family, just to rub salt in the wound.
Is
So
that like as much of a death knell to a relationship as like the the commitment ceremony, or what do you call it? Oh no, the renewing
vow
of the
renewal.
vows, the
If
vow
you're a real
renewal.
housewife who's getting a vow renewal, it means divorce. Yeah, it's
Or
the
if
same
you do,
thing.
or
A family trip.
if you randomly, 17 years in, do like autumn photo shoot.
Last photo of the family together. Super depressing.
So that's the vibe Julie has kind of with her. And now we're going to get into some bigger stuff here as we go back to Victor's dad's house in Camden, Maine, where Tabitha sits and eats. Couldn't tell what that was. I don't know if it was cereal
Like
or
stew,
stew, perhaps.
cabbage
Maybe
stew in
some
Camden.
fine Dinty Moore beef stew. But
Campbell's, maybe.
no, Dinty Moore is classier.
Oh, didn't you? Okay,
It's
not
less
chunky,
classy.
chunky
Um,
stew.
so he shows her Victor in the sister's room. It's been unchanged since they left. I'm assuming, look, they don't say it, but don't you get the vibe of like maybe went down a bottle for a while and like
Oh
just
yeah.
left the
Well,
house
also
alone?
his family disappeared. Everyone thought it was him. Everyone thought
Yes.
he murdered his family or something.
Yes.
So
And he said, but he like even took that because all
yeah,
he just wanted them to come back because he knew he didn't do anything,
yeah.
but he
No,
also
it's
didn't really know what happened.
and you see one of Victor's drawings from before of their family together, like a little stick figure drawing.
Same crayon drawings that we see.
Yeah. And again, you're seeing the same types of themes within relationships. A parent feeling guilty
Well,
about saying the wrong thing at the last
Well, that's a
moment,
really
right?
good point because, like, what else would Victor's dad hold on to except, fuck, the last thing I said to my kids was clean up your room or no TV? Like, who wants that to be the last thing you say to anybody, let alone your kids?
Yeah. So it's just like that constant between relationships of people feeling guilty for not having said or done the right things, and just holding on to those last moments with someone.
And then we do kind of get right here. This is where Victor's dad just is like, look, I've been trying to figure it out. Like, did you fake these news articles? Did you make up everything? All of that is crazier than believing that your insane story might actually just be true. And that leads to, you got to see what's in the basement.
Ooh, what did you think it was going to be in the basement
Well,
before?
now this is why I have issue with seasonal trailers because I already knew because we saw weird paintings. So, like, what was going to be in there?
Weird
And I feel
paintings.
like, don't show me that. and up
Well, then
front.
don't watch
Well, I
trailers.
try not
I
to.
love trailers and previews. I could sit and watch trailers and previews all
Diana,
day
everybody
long.
is somebody who, will be like, hey, I don't know what I want to watch. Let me watch a couple trailers. And then I'll come back in the room like 40 minutes later. I'm like, oh, did you finish that? And she's like, no, just been watching trailers.
Well, it's like you get like a whole movie or a whole show in like 2 minutes, and you're like, oh, okay, I get the gist, I get the vibe, and maybe I'll watch it. But let me just like check out another 2 minute movie.
Hence, is this how you found From? Where you?
Probably.
No, From was from me because I find
Of
this
course, I
stuff.
wouldn't watch anything scary without you. I don't watch a lot of scary. Although the things I do watch are pretty dark. Like I watched Hannibal, that was terrifying, but I loved
The
it.
TV
The TV
series.
series. Like
It's
I
because you like the mental aspect of stuff, which is
I
the same
love
thing that
it.
got you into From.
That's true. That's true. I don't usually choose, although like Walking Dead, stuff like that, like other zombie
It's because
types.
it's the relationship stuff. It's
Yeah.
the because who doesn't play the game with your significant other, your friends or anything like, okay, in the apocalypse, the
Like what
zombie
would yeah.
apocalypse, whatever it
Who
is.
would you be? What
Yeah.
would you do? And I'm like, I'd be eaten in like 30 seconds. Like I'd be done.
And see, and I'm always like, no, you wouldn't because you'd be behind me and I'd be killing things.
Aw. I'd be like, just leave me here. I can't. I'm so tired. I haven't done enough cardio. Like, just
Just
let me
eat me. It's
just
fine.
relax. Like, please, just make it quick so I can just like chill out by this tree. Like, I don't have the energy for
Okay,
this.
now I know you don't want to get to this, but we have to continue with the difficult part here coming up
Okay.
in the episode, which is at the church. We see Jade looking over Tian Chen's body. We know that he always liked her. He was close to her. He mentions to Christy, she always made me tea.
Aw.
And he really has a connection. And I think that what's really hard for the town is that Tian Chen, especially after Kenny's father is killed early on, she's kind of like the mother to everybody in
She's the
town.
matriarch of the
Yeah,
town.
she really. You could argue it's Donna, but she's removed herself in Colony House. Tian Chen runs the diner. She feeds
Yeah.
people. She is loving to Ethan, to Jade. I mean, look at everyone who she touched. That you can understand Jade sitting here. He doesn't have anybody. His buddy who he came into town with was killed real fast, as we recall. And he hasn't. This is like the closest person he has is Tian Chen, and she's gone now.
Well, so he and Christy he's gonna help Christy make her look nice because Christy is not a
I
mortician.
did. That
And
was.
Christy also doesn't know how to do makeup. Come on, let's get real.
Were you at all concerned that she was going to give Tian Chen a haircut?
Do not give her the Christy. Do not do anything to that hair, please. And did you not like think it was like, of course, Jade grew up wealthy. Like he's definitely been to some interesting clubs
Well,
and
I
tried
loved.
experimented in his life, right? He's done
Yes.
drugs. Like he's
No, I
he's
love. Come on.
cool.
Did you not love the thing where Jade's like, "Oh, I used to play dress up
Yeah,
all the time as a kid."
for sure. For sure. So we know they're going to make her look nice so that that is the image and the memory that Kenny can have of her and that the whole town can, because some people have died and we haven't really seen much of how
Right.
they've responded in terms of like the emotional stuff. But
Well, I
you
think I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say I think part of that is majority of the people who have died were not beloved by
by so
everybody.
many, exactly. Like it was like random or people's some spouse and
Like
that
it was a
person
bummer.
cared, but
Like I liked Tom, the bartender, who got killed a
right.
while ago. We've
But
seen him
you're
come
not going to
back
have
as a
a whole
ghost.
town
No,
funeral for him. But for Tian Chen, who is the matriarch who ran the diner,
I like that.
she's going to get
She was
that.
the
Yeah.
matriarch of From. I
Yeah.
think you put that really well. And let's focus on this before we return back to Victor's dad's house. In the church, Jade's looking. Oh wait, did I say that already?
Yeah. So we saw
Yeah,
that. And
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
then we go back to Fatima. Oh, this is the
Yes.
scene, Jack. Fatima's like, hey,
Ay,
Ellis, go talk to your dad. He's been
yes.
through a lot. Like, maybe go be there for him. I'm fine. I got my medicine, or do they call it a potion or something? Like, there's something interesting about the medicine that
Who's?
Marielle gave her.
Well, you don't
Like,
think it was just
I
like
don't
an
know, it's
appetite stimulant
liquid
or something?
bottle. Like, did that have anything to do with
Okay,
her
really,
strange new eating
really,
habits,
really
the new death diet she's
really
on?
random idea here, but like I don't trust Marielle at
Ooh.
all.
Maybe we
She
can't
came
trust
in.
anyone on the
No, but
bus.
she came in late. She's connected to Christy. She had the issue with the cicadas or whatever was going on, where she was, with Randall and Julie in the
Yep.
dungeon and all of that. and she's coming off of drugs. I don't know how long it's been. She could still be detoxing. I'm not sure. There's something I don't like, and I think, and it's just occurring to me now while we're talking about it. I said to you when we were watching it that it felt like she was a little too reassuring to
Yes.
Fatima and Ellis.
Yes.
And now while I'm watching, talking about it, it feels like, oh, maybe that was just sinister
Well,
and
yeah. What did
intentional.
she give her? Was it just
Well, now
yeah,
that you said that, you
appetite?
just made me
Right.
think about that.
Yeah. Because
It's
then,
not pills, and we see everything else there is pills. It's not like fucking like warlock potion
yeah,
bottles, you
like
know?
amoxicillin you took as a kid in liquid form.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But so Fatima has a nice moment with the girl who,
Nikki,
Nikki,
who says, what is she?
bathroom
Again,
Nikki.
she's like, hey, sorry about the other day. And Fatima's like, yeah, no, it's understandable. And she's like, but there's no reason to be a dick about it.
Yeah, like, okay, I'm sorry, I was a dick about it.
And then walks
Whatever.
away. But she was nice. It was kind of an odd,
And Fatima looks at this rotting pile of vegetables with just
hungrily.
with a satiating kind of grin of like, this looks pretty good. Now, this might be a pregnancy thing. I feel like everything is like slightly,
Well, of course, they want to mix it up.
right?
Here.
Like pregnant women can have weird cravings for things that are rotten or not.
Well,
okay.
I believe Michelle had mentioned pica, which is something that can happen to pregnant women or just people in general, where you start eating things like dryer sheets and like rotten food and just things
There
you're
have
not
definitely
supposed to
been
eat.
reality TV shows about people who
If you
eat
want a little
weird.
palate cleanser for this, what was the name of that show with the
Oh
pica
God, I can't
people?
remember.
Oh,
Now.
My Secret Addiction.
Oh, My Secret Addiction, such a good one.
It might
So
be on Max or
I think
TLC.
Fatima's on the next episode. My secret addiction: eating rotting vegetables.
Coming at you live from Fromville.
And then like hoarding them. Like she got really excited about that.
Well,
So,
she took like multiples and started like shoving them in
like,
her face in the
what
corner.
is this baby? What is this thing
Okay,
inside of her?
and we're going to get to some
Oh,
theories at
God,
the
I
end
can't
of this,
wait.
but let's just say it
Like,
is
this like a demon baby? Is this Rosemary's Baby?
I was
Is
just
this...
going to say definitely worse than Rosemary's Baby, because I don't even think the devil would fuck with Fromville.
Yeah, right.
Like
Well, yeah,
this is not devil like. This
it's
is
also more
just
like
demons.
zombie like she's
Yes.
starting to decay.
Die.
Yeah, like she's decaying. And so what's inside of her that's causing her to decay?
Eesh.
What does that all mean? Is her mind going to decay? Is she going to turn evil? Like there are so many questions. I know there's a lot of theories out there, so we'll talk about a few of them at the end, but if you have a theory or if you have an idea, like I am
Get at
just so
us.
curious. Yeah, come at us with your ideas, people. Like,
and we'll give you the contact again at the end, and also please check the show notes. We always have all of our contacts in the show notes. Going back to Tabitha and Victor's dad in his house. So we were at the while she was eating part, yeah? Or did we get past that?
oh, we finished her eating. Like we're ready for the basement.
Did we? Oh, sorry. That's what we were.
Yeah, we're up to the basement. But before the basement, there's just like, Colony House and Ethan seeing, Donna butcher this
now,
animal.
what do you make of? Is this just is this like Ethan just kind of taking in like all of this horror, because he's very kind of nonplussed. He understands who died. He knows that Tien Chen loved him. Like Donna's trying to tell him that stuff. He's like, I know.
Yeah, because he's an old soul. Like, didn't you say this last? He's like a 60-year-old man in a 10-year-old body. Like he really is a little old man.
He really is.
And I think he's been through a lot in his life before and he's the only kid living amongst adults. And as an only child who is around a lot of adults, you become quite precocious and you kind of stuff things down. And, so I think that's it. But they kind of mirror that scene of her butchering the animal to save me with Christy and Jade, like getting Tien Chen's body fixed up and beautified.
Little shout
and made
out
to look nice.
to Sarah for bringing the beautiful dress that Tien Chen used to like to try on.
Yes, go Sarah, go. Okay, Sarah's really trying to redeem herself.
Well, she saved Julie and Ethan.
I always look at them and I'm like, why do you hate Sarah so much still? And I'm like, God, that was so long ago. I think it was like a week ago in their time. But like, I'm like, it's so many episodes. She hasn't done anything worse than anyone else. Like she's this is a crazy
She's
town.
literally responsible for Kenny's dad's death, for murdering Jade's friend, for
Oh,
accidentally murdering her brother.
technicalities. Technicality, but it's like she's hearing voices. Like, you can't blame the people for this. That's what they keep forgetting. And because you want to blame someone, and it's easier to blame the other humans around you than to
Yeah.
like, because you can't blame things you can't understand. It's just not as
No,
satisfying
you're
as
right.
blaming another human.
So after that, we get to we're at the bar, and Kenny is filling jugs with that grain alcohol we mentioned. Boyd enters. Kenny tells him he's going to go to the tunnels and kill as many monsters as he can. Kenny just wants to make them hurt, and Boyd's response is, "All right, let's go. I'm in."
Yeah. Well, of course, you knew that they needed to have a moment together. We knew that Boyd was going to need to share with Kenny that he was there to witness Tien Chen's death. And, it was interesting wondering like how Kenny was going to react to that. Was he going to
Well,
be angry at him that he didn't stop? Like, even though it was impossible for him to stop, like, was Kenny
I'll
also going
tell
to be
you
mad?
an earlier line we skipped over that kind of like said this. He asked Christy in the diner, like, did she suffer? And she says, Kenny. And he goes, no, no, stop. It's okay. Because
Thank God he stopped
no, but
her.
he knew
Of course.
because nobody dies a painless death and from
No,
film.
especially if it's a monster's death. Like,
Yes.
that. Like,
Yes.
it's not. But so it was nice for Boyd. And this was when we found out what uh, Boyd had been speaking Cantonese and what he had been saying.
Yeah. So we find out he does remember it, right? He got it. He got the phrase remembered, which was so important. And he says it to Kenny, and Kenny just breaks down and he translates for him. And it was, take care of him. He'll be alone now.
Yeah.
And Kenny just breaks down. And then what a terrific, powerful embrace from Boyd, where he's like, I got you, man. Like, and he gives him like such a like dad hug.
Yeah, well, because that's his only that's his father figure
I
now.
think Boyd care honestly.
More than Ellis.
Yeah, I think
more of a son
Boyd.
than Ellis ever was.
I mean, Ellis is off fucking around off in Colony House. He's never
They
around.
have like no relationship.
Kenny's his right hand man. He's the deputy. He's a stand up guy. He's not off just like fucking around and painting pictures or whatever. I mean, I don't
Smoking
know.
weed, hanging out.
This is about. It's
Slacker.
not about the actor. It's about the character of Ellis.
No, it's Ellis. It's just Ellis. But so thankfully they don't go into the cave to disappear.
Well, no. Well, Boyd says to Kenny, he's like, "Look, we can go down there, but like, do you really think fire's going to kill these things?" And Kenny's like, "Kill it, got rid of that other one." And Boyd's like, "That one was dead.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, so
and
they
then
go
we
back,
get the hug, and then it's just,
the
hey
hug,
man, let's
and
go
then
back to town.
Continuing closure where Kenny gets to go see his mother's body,
Yes.
all dressed and kind of put together.
They did a
and
beautiful
hug
job,
her.
Christy and Jade.
Yep, they wrapped her so you couldn't see the missing insides, which was pretty
A
rough.
little dicey when he was stroking her hair.
I was like, oh my, yeah. Well, I kept worrying. I'm like, don't lean too much. You're gonna like fall into her empty ribcage.
Ay. Oh, God.
It's from, dude. Okay, I'm sorry.
So then we get one more solid moment from Sarah. She's sitting outside. Julie's walking by, super fucking morose, and basically tells Sarah, like, look, this place is getting to me, especially since I got like infiltrated by like mythical dream cicadas. And
like, I kind of get it. You're not super crazy. It's not just you. Like, I also had the town like turn me into a crazy person.
And Julie's sort of like, I'm afraid I'm going to turn into you. Sarah does not take that offensively at all.
Yeah.
And we have a nice moment there where they're just, Sarah lets her know, like, you can talk to me. And Julie's like, yeah, I will. And she walks away.
Now, finally, we get into the basement of Henry's house, and we hear the story from Victor's dad about Victor's mom, Miranda, and how they were hippies and how they took acid. And then
they were doing one last acid trip when the kids were a few years old.
That's right.
They went to go do one last trip. I guess they hadn't done it for a few years. I'd left the kids with one of the parents, grandparents. And of course, and this is why if you're over 30 years old and you haven't done hallucinogenics in a long time,
don't do it.
Don't go back.
Don't go back. If you missed the acid trip era like I did, maybe just call it a loss and move on.
And if you didn't miss it like I didn't, just move on anyway. It's no place you want to be after 30.
I feel like when you're young and you have fewer like worries and heavy life things that like that's when you do it and you're free. Like when you're this age and you have like,
You'll wake up and think you're like in Fromville.
yeah, seriously. Like I just don't think that, I think there's too much we've experienced and seen to enjoy a trip like that. That's not the trip I want to take. I'm
Now,
sorry.
I did not get like full pictures of like what she had paintings of. Can you give me a rundown a little bit? What did you see? Obviously, we see the creepy kids, the monsters. We obviously, which we'll get to the big picture at the end, which kind of kicks off some other stuff.
Yeah, we
What
like,
other pictures,
so
paintings did
right, we
she
see the
have?
creepy kids. We see
Oh,
um
the Civil War
we
guy.
see the Civil War guy that Jade had seen in season 1, I think it
It
was,
was,
the
I
missing
think, when he was
eye.
in the like cave and
Yeah.
looking at that stuff.
We there's so many paintings and it's all
Well, not
paintings of
missing eye. It looks like he got shot in
the,
the eye or something.
sure, whatever, but like there's paintings. There's a painting of like an arch in the cave, which is similar to the arch where like Boyd is in the cave with his fake demon wife.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the cave, there's pictures of that. There's painting of the diner. There's a painting of the church that has like light, either light like coming out of the windows, or like rays of light, or it could
Oh.
be like
Oh,
explosions
I got to
out of
check
the
this out.
window.
Okay.
And then there's a painting that they focus pretty heavily on of a man in a yellow suit,
Yes.
and that we don't know. We haven't seen this yellow suited man. So I
Did
think,
the
but they focus
painting
enough on it.
look at all like the way the monsters look? Like, did he look like he could have been one of
Like
those?
it was too specific to just be a
Right.
random monster. Like they did have people dressed in different era stuff, but this one seemed
More
to
of
be
like a
more
boss level
important. And I don't know
monster.
what yellow would represent in this, but then you could like see yellow kind of
Well, but
going.
in general, yellow generally represents fear or nausea
Yeah, well, or
or
excitement,
anxiety.
anxiety.
Well, see, but so what is
So
this? That is a
what's
big
interesting,
point.
so they have the guy in yellow, and then they also show the painting that Tabitha really notices of the boy in white. And so I'm wondering, like, are those two like antagonists of each other? Are those two, is the boy in white kind of like the savior? Is he trying, because he pushed Tabitha out of the window in order to have her help and save, it
Well, but I
seems.
think getting pushed out of the window was the only way to
To
get back
right,
to the real world.
right. But so is that boy sort of the representation of the good, and in his, and then is the yellow sort of the
Oh,
opposite
that's
of
interesting.
that? Um,
As opposed to, but I wonder if this is like, is this more like shades of light through a prism? Because the opposite of the boy in white would be the man in black,
yeah.
right? But like the yellow is like almost like parallel to the white, not
Mhm.
the opposite.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. It's like both. But so I don't know. And, the paintings clearly showed things that happened that we're seeing happen now. So in the future from when they were painted in the 70s.
Right.
Um,
Oh, that's a good
and
point.
also, same thing with like some of the cave drawings that they're seeing
Yes.
also are things that are happening in the future. So the definite play of time and the talk of like cycles of like, is Tabitha sort of the same character as Miranda, as Victor's mom? Is
Well, are you talking
Tabitha
about when they're when he's kind of referencing to Tabitha that what Miranda had put together was that there had been many ones before her who were chosen, but that they had all failed.
right? And so you're seeing Civil War. You're
Hmm.
seeing they keep showing the coming attraction of some like guy from like the 1700s, like drinking out of a skull. We
That
have
might have been Civil War garb, though.
we
I'm
have
not
all of the
sure.
monsters from the 50s, like, so it's seeming that these things are cyclical and then everyone dies, right?
Yes.
And so it's interesting because while Victor's dad is talking to us, we're also seeing the funeral happen and talking about how, you know he's kind of talking about what Miranda had been saying, showing it overlaying the
Yes.
um the the funeral, and talking about how the people hold on to hope, and then
Well, the direct quote that he says Miranda said was that the people were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other.
right. And so
Which is kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing that the strong-willed people are holding on to each other. They're not pushing each other away. And every time a skirmish breaks out or some disagreement, people are really quick to kind of squash it.
Mm-hmm. And so that brings the idea of hope again, and how this town, how hope is actually fueling this
Yes.
beast, this monster, this troll, whatever it is that, if you go back to last season, I think, or this, when Boyd is in the cave
Mm-hmm.
talking to the
Martin.
fake mother, no,
Oh,
his
his
fake
fake wife.
wife,
Yes,
who's not
yes.
really his
Who's
wife,
the demon
right? There's the
spirit,
demons.
whatever.
She says, something about hope is what makes you willing to suffer. And
Right.
if the town is feeding on suffering, then it's technically also feeding on the hope. And so you want the hope to continue, because without the hope, nobody would suffer. Nobody, if you don't hope for anything, if you don't have any stakes in something, then you're not really going to suffer because you have no expectations.
That's a really, really good point. And, I think though what's interesting is that out of all of this, we see the fire inside of Boyd is growing. He's angry. And when he's forced to watch after that cowboy fucker says to him, oh, you thought this place couldn't break you. Well, we'll see about that. And I feel like he's like, oh, here. And I love when, Perrineau gets angry, the New York accent comes
Oh
out.
yeah.
He's like, "Get the fuck
Get
out of
the fuck out of
here! Fuck out
here.
of
Yeah,
here!"
fuck out of here.
I really appreciate that, and I feel like that's the energy he's bringing into when he's taught. So Ellis asks him if he's okay, and Ellis asks him if he's okay, and he's like, "No, I'm not." And he says that it's we're catching one of these fucking things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what he wants to do. I don't know that Ellis has the stones to go follow him. We will see coming up. After that, we see Jim walking with the kids. They're not feeling him and say they're going to
Peace
walk
out.
ahead,
We're going to the farm. We're going to check out the animals. We don't care about you
which
no more.
this is a very quick cut to Jim entering the house. He's standing sort of just chilling out for
You
a
knew that
moment.
phone was about to ring.
Well, it's from. So you're not,
Yeah.
if you're chilling for like 5 seconds,
And they
something
have
has
it
to
in the bed,
happen.
like just the framing of it
It
was
was a
like,
good shot.
that phone's gonna ring again.
And then we get right at the end of the episode, Jim answers the phone, says hello, and we hear, "Dad, it's Thomas."
And it sounds like Ethan's voice to me. It's like very similar.
That's an interesting point.
That voice. Also, Thomas died as a baby.
Yes.
So is this Thomas?
What does this exactly mean?
And so is it really Thomas? Like whatever.
Or is it from fucking
or
with him
is
again?
it like Boyd's wife, Thomas?
Yes. Now I don't think the only I mean we haven't gotten anything through the phone of consequence beyond hearing what sounded like it could be military personnel or something on in the earlier season
coming through the circuits.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we don't know exactly what's going on, but we do know cords lead to nowhere.
So that is the end of the episode, which I guess I'm not sure. I started this off by saying last week ended so horrifically, and now we have this ending on Dad, it's Thomas. Like,
Ooh, I like the cliffhanger ending. I like that. It's giving me something exciting. Okay, so I wanted to quickly, before we wrap
we
up,
got a few minutes left here. Now,
Okay.
if you're done, we're done with the recap portion.
but a little bit of lore around Fatima, because I know we're all wondering, like, we know something's up, but we don't know exactly what it is. And we've seen Elgin have these nightmares with a woman in a kimono with long hair that really resembles Fatima and have like almost like a skeleton like face.
Yes.
And she looks like she's, becoming a skeleton and gaunt in the eyes. So like we know something's going on there, but we don't know what. So there's a couple of theories. One of them leads back to these 3 Japanese myths. And I don't know, I was looking at this on YouTube, so I don't know who the person is. So I'm sorry, I'm not crediting you. But there's these 3 myths about 3 different versions of this kind of like witch beast ogre thing. The Ameona, the Humeona, and the Anaoba. I can't pronounce it. I apologize.
Forgive our pronunciation
like
on this, please.
super butchering it.
And just let me cut in, Diana, from YouTube, just to give credit. This is the account Beyond Premiere.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So if you want an actual
I'll
more
throw a link in the show
okay.
notes.
Well, you can watch it yourself because I probably should have watched it more times. But one of them is this ogre-like spirit who wears kimonos, who waits in abandoned houses for a visitor that will never come, and she's kind of like the vision of the patient wife.
Yes.
Um, and so you
It
kind of
says the
compare
loose tooth is like decaying beauty and devours anyone in her path.
right, and
So
her
that's like,
diet
yeah,
is rotten leftover food or human. So that feels pretty connected.
I'd
The
say so.
the Ameona is also known as the Rain Woman, and
Yes.
she's a vengeful spirit who steals children and has an insatiable thirst and hunger for something unnatural,
Rotten
aka
food
rotten food, and water. So, like in Elgin's dream,
in the
uh,
bathtub, where he's almost getting drowned.
right. So, is Elgin responsible? Is he supposed to stop Fatima from becoming this? You know, when he arrives, it's raining and he has the nightmare of the place where he asks Fatima to take him to the water, which seemed a lot like that lake that we saw Jim and
Yeah. No,
Kenny
no, I
at. So
think
I'm not
it
sure.
might be the other
And
end.
he's dreaming of a monster trying to drown him. So this is that monster. And then the third one is a ghost of a woman who died in childbirth. And she
Yes.
wanders the streets looking for ways to care for her lost child. So is Fatima transforming into a monster of like these three Japanese myths? Um, her body seemingly is rejecting this life, and the town is actually changing her into something else. Um, and you could think of the rotting crop sort of as the symbol of the town's corruption that's manipulating her and her needs. So she's feeding off of this and becoming more corrupted and decaying more within the town. And there was, oh, I forgot to mention, Jack, that one of the paintings
Yes.
that Miranda painted was of a pregnant woman, and she had like a kind of like a bloody
Oh, that's
mouth.
right. Yes.
So something like that. And then the other thing that was interesting that some other viewers pointed out was um, this their fascination with the numbers. So these numbers 4 and 7 kind of keep coming up, and we don't know exactly what they mean, but where do they come up? Like Tilly talks about her 4 children and her 7 grandchildren. Then 47 is the radio signal when Jim is looking for the radio signal. Um, there's the 7 stones and 7 children in the cave when Tabitha goes into the cave.
Yes.
And also Tabitha's hospital room, if you're into numerology, where you kind of put numbers together, is 225. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 5 is 7. Again, 4 and 7 kind of coming. So is this pattern code something to crack? Is it somehow how people are selected to be in the town? Because we haven't figured out anything about
We
who's
know
being
less
yeah, we know
about
less.
this
I mean,
now.
like, why are the people who are there? We can't find, I haven't found any commonality of like they all, experienced something in life. Like, sure, they've all had pain or loss, but like that's too general, too vague. And then finally with the numbers, so if you're getting biblical, and people who are biblical, please come at us because I know very little, but biblically, apparently, the number 4, it represents the earthly world, and the number 7 represents the spiritual world. And
Yes.
so Fromville is kind of between these two realms, which is sort of between life and death, right? The earthly realm
Is
and
it
the spiritual
almost, is it like a
realm.
liminal space? Is it somewhere in
Yeah, like
between?
I always think of it as like a purgatory, but it seems awful. I mean, if that's purgatory, don't send me there. But like it does, you're
Well,
not
can't
just
quite be. Can you
waiting.
get killed in
I
purgatory?
don't, yeah, exactly. Like, where do you go from there? What
But it does. I
happens?
know what you're saying. It's like a way station
Yeah,
almost.
exactly. So I don't know. Those are some interesting. I don't know that they really help us understand more of what's going on or just create more questions.
I think it creates more questions, but I think with all the lore and the essential magic of the show, I mean, can you not see the show going in this direction? I mean, they did the vision that looks like Fatima in the robe. I mean, it's a Japanese looking robe, and
Yes,
then
the kimono,
yeah, it
really.
is. I mean, it is. Is it? I mean, it is not just a
I
robe; it
think
is a
so.
kimono, from what we see. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk that the ghost sort of looks a little like Fatima,
Yeah.
more than a little. So yeah, I am really curious as to where this is going to go. I have no idea of what's going on next week. We didn't watch a preview yet. We got to watch the preview for
I'm so
next week.
excited though. I'm so into this show. It's so much fun and it's become emotionally very captivating. So I
Yes.
appreciate it a lot.
I'm hoping next week we might get a little bit. I want to see. We need some sort of like minor win for the townspeople.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're in
because
a dark hole right now.
it's really rough. So listen, that's we're going to wrap up now. I want to thank everybody who is joining us for the first time, joining us again, going on this From journey with us. Of course, all of our other coverage is of reality stuff. So if you want to take a little break from this hard, heavy stuff, please join us on a reality podcast feed, or same feed. Reality podcast episodes. And of course, get at us. If you have any email, please send it to apngpod@gmail.com, and on Instagram we're APNG podcast. And we would really genuinely love to hear from you. I did look at our numbers. The numbers are very solid on our From coverage. And
Woohoo.
also, very fascinating to me because I'm a geography guy, we have a lot of world listeners. So if you are, I want to hear from you if you're in America or North America for that matter. But if you are listening to us from a different country, please write to us. I'd love to hear
That's so
how you're
cool.
taking in this show because, I have a very American perspective on this. So I would love to hear what everyone else has to say. And we will be back next time, next week for episode 3. We'll be back with other stuff in between. I'm Jack.
And I'm Diana. Thanks for having me. I hope Michelle's back next week and maybe we'll have the three of us at one point. So we've got her beautiful mind to give us some more of the details of the lore and we can keep talking about, these great characters and
Yes.
terrible haircuts.
We love
You.
you. That's
That's
it.
it.